Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, the speculation and the anxious waiting are over. We now have an answer. The summit will take place. It will be on June the 16th, and the venue is Geneva. So President Biden will go to Cornwall, meet up with his friends in the G7, then he'll go to NATO, then there's a EU summit, and then the day after, he's going to be in Geneva talking with President Putin. The agenda still seems to be completely up in the air. Jen Psaki, whenever she's pressed on the matter, was unable really to spell out what the agenda for this discussion would be, other than, well, we want to put relations with Russia on a stable and predictable basis. They all now repeat this like a mantra. However, she did say that, well, we will raise the subject of Ukraine and Belarus with President Putin. Which this doesn't all go well, because I don't think President Putin is in a mood to discuss Ukraine and Belarus with the United States. And we know what he'll say. He'll say, you tell your friends in Ukraine to stick to the Minsk Accords as they're supposed to and as they promised to do so. And when it comes to Belarus, he says, I don't control Belarus. I mean, it's a sovereign country. I mean, you have any problems, you take it up with them. So if that's Jen Psaki's idea of what the topics on the discussion at the summit will be, I don't think that summit will get very far. I really don't know, what is going to happen. I mean, presumably they'll just come up with some platitudes about global warming, yes, nuclear arms control, in general. And we need to deal with global pandemics. I don't see anything very specific coming out of it. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I feel exactly the same way, and I'm actually surprised it's going forward. And actually, there's still time for it to be called off.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Because there's a higher probability it'll be a failed summit than a nothing burger summit, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay. I mean, because when you consider the batshit crazy response to not, putting the full force of the American foreign policy establishment against Nord Stream 2,
right.
The Republicans just went haywire. I mean,
right.
None of them studied the issue. None of them know what this is about. It's really, well, it's par for the course. Okay, it's always, it's like the Kurds. I mean, did they even know what a Kurd looks like? Anyway,
right. That's right.
But and on the other hand, the Russians are showing good faith. I mean, that's really it's really kind of what at the very center of Russian foreign policy. I mean, they're very old school, and if there's any opportunity to make some kind of progress, they tend to go for it. Okay, yes. Because I think that, number one, the Biden administration doesn't know what it wants. Number two, American foreign policy since the end of the Cold War and their inability to comprehend that the unipolar moment is over, you just have a very erratic foreign policy class dealing with the world. It's very, very spasmodic. It's very situational. It's very weird to tie together. I mean, just like we had a previous video that Blinken's in the Middle East, toasting a boss, and then lecturing Syria about democracy when a boss hasn't been elected for 15 years. And then Assad has followed through on the constitution of Syria. Everyone should take a look at that video. But the thing is that it's really, what they did to Trump in Helsinki is good. This is what Biden faces also, okay? That he's a traitor to his country. It's Russia first and all. And if the political class hadn't done that to Trump, the media hadn't done that to Trump, it would be a little bit different. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember, is it when the president of the United States is out of the country, the president's not supposed to say bad things. I mean, that's all gone. Remember those days?
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And now, because the and the political establishment allowed the media to be the front, they're not the decision makers, but the front people of their ideology. It's going to come back and haunt them because, Russiagate can cut many different ways, as we've seen.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's right. And if you remember, on the eve of that Helsinki summit, Mueller dropped his indictment against the 12 Russians who were supposedly involved in hacking the DNC. So this was obviously an attempt by Mueller and his gang to scupper any prospect of any negotiation, because of course that was what all the press corps was yelling out to Trump and Putin. Yeah, what about what Mueller says? And the Russian hacking of our election and so on. I mean, this was a deliberate attempt to sabotage the summit. Now, you're right about the Republicans. Of course, the Republicans will be howling. He's Putin's puppet and so on and so forth. The mainstream media, however, are in a bind because they are in love with Biden. And for them, Biden can do no wrong. So they really don't know what to make of it. And so generally, they're kind of ignoring it. I mean, if you look at the New York Times and the Washington Post, they're just by and large ignoring the whole subject because it is kind of embarrassing. I mean, they spent 4 years accusing Biden's predecessor of being a traitor to his country, of being Putin's puppet. Now you have a president who apparently, after all the stories, Russia, Russia was involved in this hack, the solar wind hack. Then there was the colonial pipeline was supposed to have taken place from Russia. Then they were about to invade Ukraine. And then he was a killer. And after having said all that, now you're meeting him. So they don't know what to say about it. So they prefer changing the subject. And let's talk about something else.
There's speculation, and and I have talked about this at great length, is that there apparently is the varsity team in the administration. It still thinks that they can pull this, divide Russia from China. All these people were wearing diapers when Kissinger was actually doing this. Okay,
right.
And that is so naive. It's to the point of just being ridiculous and bizarre.
Yes.
That the charm and strength and virtue and dignity and all this, of American exceptionalism can pull it off again. Right, well, no, it's not going to happen. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So what is it? We did our best. We tried. We went the extra mile. Is this the narrative they're building?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think
because
go. No, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a kind of geopolitical calculation taking place, which is absolutely ridiculous, because here we had just now a visit to Moscow, a representative of the Chinese leadership. And if you listen to the words of Putin, very, very warm, talks all about, my good wishes to my friend, Xi Jinping, and all the talk about we must collaborate more further with China, deepen our cooperation, deepen our relationship. There's no talk like this at all about the United States. It's more or less, okay, well, you want this meeting, fine, we'll go ahead, if you're so insistent on it. But there's no warmth. The notion that the Russians are just going to say, oh, let's get rid of China and we'll join up with the United States. It is absolutely nuts. There are no disputes between Russia and China. There's nothing. No outstanding issues at all dividing the two powers. So how are they going to come up with this idea that Russia and China are suddenly going to get into a fight over something?
As a matter of fact, it's just a reverse. What the Chinese and the Russian foreign policy elites have been doing over the last few months is showing, it's not always explicit, but it's certainly very implicit, is that we got each other's back, okay? I mean, that's what's going on here. I mean, I'm convinced, I don't have any firsthand knowledge, obviously, but I'm convinced that in looking at the summit here, the Russians are communicating with their interlocutors in Beijing, saying, this is what they said to us. This is, they're coordinating, because every time Blinken addresses quote unquote a troubling issue, where is all of a sudden a Chinese statement, and then a high-ranking Russian foreign ministry officials in Beijing, and they said, and they're constantly coordinating here. Okay, now let's be clear here. I mean, China and Russia historically have had very strong differences. And let's be honest and clean about it here. Russia was one of the colonial powers of the 19th century that the Chinese remember, but they've done the basic things. There are no border disputes. They've all have been resolved. Okay, right. And Russia's always been very concerned that it would be just a natural resource supplier, and China would be, could export machinery, for example. It's not a good trading over a long term. It's a very bad trading relationship. So what do? They have a lot of joint ventures on both sides doing both things. Okay, because the Russia's geopolitical, its geography, its resources. It's very it's the richest country in the world, bar none. Okay, just because of its vastness. Okay, no. But I mean, exploiting it takes enormous sums of money and outlays, and China has it. So they're working very intensely and making sure that there's a equilibrium in that relationship. Right. And when you have equilibrium, you have trust.
Right. But I think that what these geopolitical thinkers don't appreciate is that, there have been times when Russia and China have had bad relations. There have been an awful lot of times when Russia and China have had very good relations. And the fact is that through most of the 20th century, they actually had very good relations. Stalin had good relations both with Chiang Kai-shek and with Mao. And it was under Khrushchev that they had that major falling out. I think the Chinese obviously didn't like the de-Stalinization policy that the USSR undertook. They took it rightly, as history has shown, that basically the Russians were undermining the entire Soviet system by the way they handled it. I mean, notice how the Chinese have managed to de-Maoify their country without actually demonizing Mao. Mao is still regarded as a hero, even though they've completely reversed all his policies. And they probably felt, in fact, almost certainly they felt that Russia should have done the same thing, but instead they kind of began the dismantlement of the entire system when they attacked Stalin. So that was a historic period. You can't just generalize from that Russia and China are at daggers drawn and they absolutely hate each other, and we can just simply exploit this division, because there is nothing at all now that's in dispute. They are absolutely aligned on almost all global issues.
But see, these juvenile delinquents in suits, what they don't understand is that the equation of do the Russians and Chinese have reasons to distrust each other? Not really. Do Russia and China in tandem have reasons to distrust Washington? Yeah, a lot of reasons. Right. See, it gets down to those kinds of things here. I mean, again, these people, they're sleepwalking to disaster. That they think that their image in the world and their values mean something. No, people see acts. They don't care about words. Okay, right. We see 800 bases around the world. Okay, right. We see illegal regime changes all over the place. We see you lie and hide behind beautiful, fancy words, which is complete hypocrisy. I mean, the only people in the Beltway have believed this, and they're darlings in the media. Other than that, a lot of people know the score.
Yeah, no, exactly right. What I suspect will happen is that they will have this summit. Biden will no doubt raise these issues: Ukraine, Belarus. He'll probably mention Navalny. I think Russia will give him very short shrift on all these topics, and there'll probably be some kind of a communique, full of generalities. We need strategic stability and whatnot, and global pandemic, global warming. We welcome U.S. attempt to get back into the JCPOA and so on. And then within weeks, a deep depression and despondency will come over Washington, that this has come up, this vaunted summit has yielded nothing. And I think America will very soon be back in the whole Putin hating mode, and the administration will be back in the Putin hating mode in no time after the summit.
Yeah, but it's because of this narrative that is so silly and has no basis in reality. And it goes like this, George: giving the opportunity, giving Putin an off ramp, giving him a way to get out of his corner. I mean, they truly believe this, and it's not based in reality whatsoever.
Right.
At all.
No,
we gave him the opportunity, you know, but.
That's it. So I think, yeah, in no time at all, there'll be yet a new, fresh litany of complaints. Oh, Russia's interfering in whatnot. Russia's being very unfriendly here. Russia's threatening Ukraine, and we'll be back to the usual thing. Because ultimately, there's such hostility, and you can't overcome this hostility unless you really have a will to do so. I think the Russians do have a will to do this. I think they want to have a partnership with the West. They don't like this an isolation from the West, but the United States doesn't do it. So they like the idea of a gimmick of a summit, great. Oh, we'll have a summit. Biden will look good. World statesman and whatnot. But they're not prepared even to give a minimum. I mean, they'd have to give a minimum of something to Russia if they really want some sort of a partnership. I mean, we've talked about the minimum. I mean, like the Russians have said, give us our diplomatic compounds back. I mean, that would be a start. They would say, how about a pledge, no more NATO expansion? That would also be a start. How about you drop, all this, your involvement in Ukraine? All of these things, which would be, the Russians say, okay, they're obviously mean business. They're obviously want a partnership. But without any of that, then, what will happen is they'll each go their own separate ways.
But George, in comparison, the historical precedent that Blinken and others want to emulate, well, all of those issues you just mentioned are small potatoes, because what was Nixon willing to do? Get out of Vietnam,
right.
Not withdraw recognition from Taiwan. I mean, these are big issues.
Right.
This was an adult's game. That was really serious. Again, we've said it many times, but I feel like we have to say it again. I mean, the Nixon Kissinger diplomatic strategy was brilliant. It was super brilliant. I mean, of Bismarckian proportions here. We're not dealing with the same intellectual caliber at all.
Right. No, I that's exactly right. And of course, what was very important here, what was Nixon gave, and what was important to the Russians is essentially knock off all your attempts to cause trouble for us in Eastern Europe, knock off all your attempts to interfere in our internal affairs under the guise of human rights and whatever, move towards recognition of the borders, recognition of the settlement of World War II.
The Helsinki Accords.
Exactly. It led to the Helsinki Accords, very important, and to the four-power agreement on Berlin. I mean, all these were part of the Détente process. So, in other words, just stop the idea that you're going to rewrite the results of World War II. And those were important concessions. And in return, then you can have good relations. But if you're not prepared to do that, then you just sound belligerent one day, and then, oh, can we please have a summit the next? That ain't going to work.
You see, what détente was supposed to be about, it's the relaxation of tensions. Okay, fine, that's what the word means. But it was about a policy of basically taking contentious issues off the table. We no longer can face conflict because of this issue or this issue. It doesn't mean that there aren't fundamental differences. They remained, okay? But what it is that it was a roadmap. With the Blinken and these people, it's a flash in the pan, maybe, throwing the dice, maybe we'll get boxcar, maybe we'll get snake eye. I mean, it's just like, that's why the Russian side will say, well, okay, we'll bring our own chair. We'll see how it goes, okay? But I mean, no one here is putting any stock into it, believe me.
No, I think so. I mean, I think that the Russians have been very skeptical all along. And, in every time they have any kind of a brief interview or brief statements from Lavrov or Zaharov, they all sound extremely kind of skeptical. They're not toning down their criticisms of the United States.
We found a way to fit it into the calendar.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like they're saying, "Oh, all right, we changed our minds about that you can't hire Russians in your embassy." Okay, just in a goodwill gesture. No, they're still telling the Americans, "No, you're not going to hire any Russians to work at your embassy." So everything remains in place. So they are extremely wary of this. But their feeling is, you've got to be civilized and courteous. Somebody extends his hand in friendship. You say, okay, well, let's see what's behind it. You hope that there isn't a knife hidden in the sleeve. But so that's why they're going ahead with it. But I don't see that there's any real hope that this is going to lead to anything very much.
If Joe shows up in a mask, it's over.
Right. That's it. It's kind of interesting, though. You have to wonder, though, whether within the administration, Biden administration, that is, that there are divisions. Remember that there's been no personnel changes. So it's the same people who were there when Biden made his killer comment. They're all there. So you're going to wonder who's really driving this. So let's have a summit with Putin. Is it Blinken? And then you wonder whether once this turns out to be a dud, whether it'll be curtains for Blinken. I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to say who's really behind this, because once it does become a dud, somebody's going to have to pay a price.
I got a bad feeling it's like no fault insurance. Okay, I really, seriously, it's the way these people are, because they're so arrogant. They have lack of any kind of introspection. It's just gonna say it's a pity the Russians didn't take us up on it. Right. We asked for just 1,000 concessions. What was so hard about that? Okay,
right.
I mean, it's exactly going to be that mindset. I mean, seriously. I mean, because,
yes.
When Reagan and Gorbachev had their summit in Reykjavik, immediately afterwards, with a matter of maybe a couple days, maybe a week or so, one of the major, I'm not going to say the name, but one of the major negotiators for the Reagan administration, he came and gave a talk to us at Stanford University. And he talked about the months and months of work, of how intricate it was, what needed to be signed off on, what was the best hope list, what was the best case list, what was the worst case. I mean, it was really elaborate. I don't see these clowns being able to walk and chew gum.
Right. No, that's right. And that's why this is a bizarre summit, and it is reminiscent of the famous or infamous Kennedy-Khrushchev summit in Vienna in 1961, which came a few months after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Again, there was no real agenda. Kennedy was completely cowed because he had shown his inexperience and incompetence over the Bay of Pigs, and he was now up against a seasoned pro like Khrushchev, and he performed disastrously. It was a totally disastrous summit for the United States. So you kind of think that something like this is on the cards.
When you think about it, John F. Kennedy, from a pedigree family, basically being brought up on a yacht, being gentleman C's at Harvard, was a real ladies' man. I mean, he had really a cool life. And then you come across Khrushchev. He survived Stalin's purges, man. I mean, that's a totally different caliber of person.
That's a very good point. Exactly. He survived. I mean, that took doing.
That took doing. Nikita power.
Yeah. Well, he survived that. And then remember, I mean, there was quite a bitter political struggle for the Stalin succession, which he won out on. Again, you have to be very smart to win out in a
And
political
that
struggle
leadership
there.
struggle was not just about words. People were down, and I mean literally down.
Exactly. That's right. Yes, yes. I mean, Beria was just shot dead on the spot. I mean, apparently from what was story.
No tears were shed. No tears were shed.
That's right.
That's the kind of environment it was.
That's right. Yeah, but a Politburo meeting that ends in the shooting of a key figure. Okay, well.
And everybody talks about soft power, but what about hard politics?
All right, Peter. Well, we will be maintaining our laser-like focus on the summit if it does indeed take place, and it's still an if there. We are.
We're on locals, thegaggle.locals.com.
Thegaggle.locals.com. Please support us to whatever extent you can. We're also on Rumble. And if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.